What's going on, everyone? It is time, finally for the last time, to talk about the Acolyte. Because yeah, I gotta be honest, I'm so happy this season is finally over. I hope that this is just this season, that's it. They're talking about they want to do a season 2. I really hope it doesn't get greenlit. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this because we got stuff to go over. Once again, nothing much has changed here as far as the final episode is concerned. We still get a lot of contradicting moments, a lot of things happening for absolutely no reason at all, a lot of just bad writing and everything else. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the scene opens up from where we left off in the last episode, or no, 2 episodes ago, because the last one had to be another backstory. So where we're at right now, Osha has the Cortosis helmet on, and she's doing this to attempt to reconnect with the Force, and it ends up working in a very weird way because she starts to freak out, and because of this, Chimera notices that her power, I guess, is like starting to go out of control, and he tries to take the helmet off and gets stuck. He starts getting the big, like, glossed over black eyes that we saw happen to Torben when the witch mother was messing with his head. So now I guess it's like she's unlocking her mother's powers or something. I guess this show forgot about technique, because it's like, if her mother never taught her how to do this, then how is she just out of nowhere doing this? I don't know. But Chimera manages to get the helmet off of her head, and we just kind of move on for now. And so she's touched the Force again, so now she can move forward in her training, I guess, even though we don't really get any of that in this episode. Meanwhile, Soul still has May strapped down while he's sitting here sulking about his past mistakes, being a creeper, as we saw in the previous backstory episode. And while they're having their little back and forth about who was right and who was wrong in this whole situation, Osha takes our dark droid over here, the one that she reprogrammed with a push of a button, and starts picking her lock. And somehow Soul doesn't see it, he doesn't hear it. She's laying flat, first of all, and he doesn't see her hand moving. The droid is not being silent. You hear all the clickety-clacks and beeps and everything, and he doesn't notice. On top of that, again, I gotta keep on pressing on this. Jedi Master, he doesn't notice anything. His senses aren't going off at all. Nope. He doesn't notice at all. From there, she managed to get one hand free, and by unlocking one hand, all of her shackles come undone. Now, if this was meant to be a function of the machine, they probably should have let us know, because as of right now, it makes no sense that she unlocked one strap and all the others were just undone and she just got up. She tases Soul with the droid. Like, this droid is really useful when when they want it to be, right? Like, how did you go from picking a lock to tasing? But I guess once you turn the droid evil, it gains some new abilities. And the final thing about I just gotta say this about the droid with all of this. Even with all the new tricks it's pulling out, considering that this was her sister's droid, and considering the time that they have not spent together, how does she know all these little secret functions that this little droid has? Because she's just using it seamlessly like it's nothing. But anyway, May takes off running from Soul. The tase, even though she had it right on his heart, didn't even knock him out. He was just kind of like stunned for a second. Goes running after her. She gets to the escape pod. He runs over to her, stops so he can scream May and make it sound all dramatic, and then attempts to run again, only for the doors to close before he can get there. So he stopped halfway in his sprint. And as a Jedi, he didn't use any Force abilities. No Force speed, no Force pull, no nothing. No nothing. Even no surprise, really. We've already seen that Jedi cannot use their powers when the writers don't want them to. And so now she's in the escape ship trying to get away, and Soul is chasing after her with the main ship. They fly into this weird, not an asteroid field, just a lot of like pebbles. So it's not like the ships are getting damaged, more like it's a nuisance of some kind. Trying to figure out why. I guess she did this to try and like mask herself so he couldn't find her, but he finds her anyway. The Force is working for him right now. Master Soul almost catches her, only for our Disney shoehorned gopher friend over here to snatch out the wiring and sabotage her ship so he can't capture her in that moment. Why? Well, from start to finish in this episode, they don't give you a reason as to why. The gopher is just there, without reason. At no point did the gopher hang out with her and become friends. At no point does the gopher do anything outside of really disrupt the flow of the show. Really. So again, another moment that was just there for no reason at all other than to push the plot. Oh, he can't capture her yet, so we'll make the gopher sabotage the ship. With no explanation as to his reasoning. There's no emotional attachment there for May. There's no... I don't see a reason for him to have concern for her safety. The gopher just did it because the writers said so. And in the midst of all the chaos, they end up losing control. May ends up crash landing on her home world, which is where they were hovering over. Why he chose to go there, no real reason for the character, just because this is where the episode's supposed to be at. So this is why they're here. And so now Soul has to come down and try and track her down, and we get more of people chasing each other around, as we've gotten in most of the series. Meanwhile, at the Jedi Temple, Venestra gets confronted by a member of the Senate, whose name nobody really cares about because another shoehorned character in here to let her know that because of rumors, he knows that they're dealing with a Jedi killer. They're trying to play the whole because it's politics, somebody always knows a secret, but this was something that was kept closely under wraps. Only a few Jedi knew about it, and the majority of those Jedi that knew about it are now dead because of Chimere. So which Jedi went and snitched? Well, it doesn't matter because the episode is never going to tell us. It's just going to let us know that he knows. And so now we get this weird conversation where he's pressing on how the Jedi are out of control and they do whatever they want and all these other things, which is really backwards because in this era, the Jedi don't do what they want. They really do serve the Senate, and whatever the Senate says goes. So this entire exchange makes no sense according to the lore, but I guess Disney lore is going to be different now, even though it's a well-known fact that the Jedi pretty much serve the Republic. They are the Republic's military in that sense. They are their enforcers. But for the sake of this scene, now they're not. Changing things up just to have a scene happen, it doesn't work. It's stupid. This entire exchange is dumb because everything he's talking about is backwards considering what the relationship between the Jedi and the Senate were. The Jedi just didn't get to go and just do whatever. If they were doing that, they'd be liberating planets outside of the Republic, which they weren't. So, again, just a waste of runtime right here. Just to try and put pressure on Venestra for no reason at all. And so now she is unreasonably stressed about the entire situation. Not to mention in all that back and forth, they also had to once again mention the fact that she suffers from, I guess, nausea or something when she's traveling through hyperspace, which is again a dumb plot point. Why do they keep on hammering that home with this character? Why does that need to be a thing? Like I said, it's not an important detail in the long run of things, but even on top of that, we're talking about a Jedi Master here. It's like the idea of humanizing characters falls out the window when you're using a method to try and humanize a character that wouldn't really get in their way anyway if they're on a master level. She should be able to just meditate her way through hyperspace travel if before training she suffered nausea from it. If that was the case. And even if that was the case, why are we bringing it up again? Why are you trying to make this a plot point for the show? On top of that, we're talking about hyperspace travel. The way hyperspace travel is depicted is different from regular space travel. It's a straight shot, and once you're going, you don't feel any kind of rockiness or shakiness. So where is this coming from? So next up, our next scene is with the flirting Darksiders over here. Osha has had a vision of letting her know where she could find May, and she's off to go and find her sister. And Chimere is walking right along with her, going to travel with her. And it's just so weird how they had them doing this whole back and forth flirty kind of thing. And it's like just a couple episodes ago, this man murdered your closest friends in the Jedi Order. no matter how you try to word it, like, oh, it was his shit, so she had to play along, or all this other crap. Like, no, I'm sorry. She's being way too friendly with a person that she witnessed murder her closest friends. And then we get this, which I know is going to be the subject of a lot of controversy. And I just got to say, I don't like it. A cameo of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Now, my reasons for not liking this, there's a few reasons. One, the show is trash, so please do not ruin a great character in this trashy show. Off top, number one. But two, just the way they show him, creepily hiding behind a cave like he's some kind of monster or something. Knowing who and what he is and was as a Sith, not just as a Sith, but also as a member of the Republic, being a high-level politician. Knowing everything that is Darth Plagueis, they could have did a better cameo than this. But even more than anything else, they showed a cameo for no reason. There's nothing about his presence right here that affects the episode at all. They just show him, and then they cut away and move on. Like, here's somebody you like. Now, let's get back to this show. Like, why do they keep doing this? This makes no sense. And I really hope that they don't give them a season 2, because I do not want to see them ruin Plagueis. In any case, Sol gets out of his ship, goes to begin tracking May, and then uses the Force so that he can hone in on her location. Which is funny because later on, he's not going to be able to do that to actually find her. The Force is very fickle with our characters in this show. But before Sol went out to find May, he finally sent out a distress signal to the other Jedi, because he's going to prove that he was right about something. I guess he's trying to prove that the planet has a vergence on it, but the show never actually, like, you know, goes into that. So yeah. But anyway, they get the distress call, and Venestra decides to take yet another team of Jedi out on another adventure to try and find Sol. Meanwhile, Osha and Chimere make it onto the planet as well. So now everybody's about to gather up into one spot. Rather quickly, I might add as well. I'm like, wait a second. I know hyperspace travel is fast, but it's not that fast. You're not jumping planet to planet across the galaxy, especially talking about the inner rim all the way to the outer rim in a simple afternoon. It doesn't work like that. That's nothing that's been weird about the show. People have just gotten in their ships, pressed their hyperdrive, and just popped up anywhere in just seconds. Like, there hasn't been one mention about, you know, any kind of timeline or days passing. And as we witness it, everybody's going to make it here by the time Sol is actually walking through the witch's temple and everything. But anyway, here we are. Sol's at the witch's temple, and now he cannot exactly pinpoint where May is. So now he has to wander around, because again, the Force is very fleeting in this show. And so as Sol is wandering around, he runs into Chimere, and they start round 2 of a lightsaber battle, which starts to turn very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon-y as it starts going through. But outside of the fight, Chimere throws out a weird line. He says, "Thank you for leading me to her." But in the previous scene, it was Osha that saw the vision of where May was, and you guys came to this planet based off of that. So how did Sol help lead you to May when you were following Osha's vision? Like, they're just writing dialogue just to write it. This show, in many ways, is like when you're with somebody and they're talking just to hear themselves talk. And I'm sorry, I just have to bring this up real quick as someone who's always like watching the choreography and all the different movements. This part was so dumb. It was flashy, so I know a lot of people are gonna say it looked cool, but it was just dumb. Sol spent, I guess, I don't know how long, using the Force to separate Chimere from his lightsabers. And even in this scene, he throws a massive Force wave that completely separates Chimere from his lightsabers, and his lightsabers go behind Sol. He spends all that time stopping him from grabbing his lightsabers using the Force or otherwise, only for the very next moment he just allows him to do it. If you're trying to disarm somebody from their weapon, why would you work so hard to do it and then just let them get their weapon back the very next moment without even trying? Like, was he tired? Is the force fleeting again? He was able to throw the force wave off. Now he has a cooldown time. Gotta wait 5 minutes before he can do it again or something. Like, what's happening here? And so while their lightsaber duel is going on, Osha and May confront each other once again. And after a little bit of back and forth, they start fighting. And their fighting scene is lacking to me as well. So here's the thing. And I'm gonna use some of the greats like Jet Li for an example. When you're playing two separate characters and then those two separate characters have to fight, you have to be able to pull off doing two separate fighting styles. So take it back to the movie The One. The good character that Jet Li was playing was fighting with Tai Chi, while the evil one was fighting with a hard knuckle style. Because of that, we saw, even though it was one person up there playing two characters, we saw and was immersed by two completely separate characters. Here, and this is not a blame on the actor, the choreographers and everything, the writers had to put this together. Okay, so let's get that straight. It's not a shot at the actor. But here, we see Osha and May, two completely separate characters. The fact that they're twins means nothing in this moment. They're two completely separate characters who have spent 16 years away from each other and have been trained by two separate people. One's been trained by the Jedi and the other one is being trained by the Sith. And when they fight each other, they're doing the exact same movements. They're fighting with the exact same fighting style. It's basically, they didn't actually come up with anything unique for this. They just had her do the exact same movements and they doubled it up on a green screen and reversed it. Laziest choreography, I swear. Like, when you have two, even if you, and we've seen it done before. Like I said, Jet Li's the biggest example. If you're playing two separate characters, you have to portray two separate characters, and they completely fail in this fight. I'm sorry. It's terrible to me. And then another thing in this episode, they're doing this weird thing where all of a sudden everybody's becoming Batman. Where a person is standing right next to you, they look away for half a second, look back, and you're gone. And they keep on doing it to Osha. First Chimera does it, then May does it. I thought she was getting her force sensitivity back. How is she not noticing people just disappearing on her? But anyway, outside in the Crouching Tiger fight, Soul manages to beat Chimera, destroying his lightsaber. And then from this stance, I'm assuming he's attempting to arrest him. Even though you might want to kill him at this moment, knowing all the crimes he's committed and what he's capable of. But no, we're going to try to arrest him. Even though he still has the Cortosis helmet and he could honestly easily just use that to slap the lightsaber blade and short it out and run away. But you know, nothing of common sense actually happens here. What does happen is May showing up to try and fight Soul off. She manages to snatch his lightsaber away, and even though it's his lightsaber, we don't at any point see him try to pull the lightsaber back to him, even though he should have been able to. Especially for your personal lightsaber. That's the easiest thing for you to snatch back to you because of your connection with the crystal inside. But no, that doesn't happen. And so instead of him pulling his lightsaber back to him, May throws the lightsaber away, it hits something metal, and it ends up cracking and damaging the lightsaber. Now, even though Soul is completely unarmed in this moment, May decides she doesn't want to kill him. She wants him to confess. And he more or less does. He admits to what he did, killing their mother and everything. And he admits it while Osha was listening without him knowing. So the creeper gets exposed. And so Osha, being reasonably upset, hearing that her master is the one who killed her mom and has been lying to her entire life, she begins to force choke him. And he kind of lets it happen because he doesn't really fight back and even says like it's okay while she's strangling him. So I guess he's accepting his punishment. There's nothing really wrong with this exact moment in this scene right here. It's just everything around it was kind of weird. And I find it funny that they double down on him being a creeper because he attempts to say, "I love you," right before she starts choking him. So yeah, Soul was every bit of a creeper that we thought he was. Now, like I said, there's things happening around this scene that's weird. One is right here. She starts to unconsciously bleed Soul's lightsaber crystal. Now, I'm sorry, that's not supposed to be how bleeding the crystal works. Like, to bleed your lightsaber crystal, you're supposed to be focusing all of your hatred and pain directly into the crystal itself. She's not doing that. She's directing all of her attention on Soul while she's force choking him. So how is the crystal just turning? And then on top of that, this is something that really kind of like is weird to me, because the bleeding thing is something that Disney made a thing in the first place. Now they're betraying their own lore, because when Vader tried to bleed his crystal from the first time, he struggled with it. Kylo Ren, he failed at bleeding his crystal and cracked it, which is why it gave that spark effect. So everybody else has to try so hard and be so careful and be so precise in order to properly bleed their crystal. Yes, she somehow unconsciously did it while she was pissed off and focusing her power on killing Soul in that moment. Okay, like you're not only betraying Legends, you're just betraying your own lore. This show is not meant to make any sense in any direction. No matter how you look at it, it's not meant to make any sense. Because again, the next scene makes even less sense. She pulls out her lightsaber against Chimera because she's just, upset about everything right now, I guess. And as she does it, the crystal is still bleeding at that point. And so the lightsaber extends blue and then it starts turning red. First of all, that's not how lightsabers work. That's not how energy works. That's not how plasma works. Like, what's going on here? There's that. And then there's the second thing. The lightsaber itself is damaged. Okay, what you seen on my shorts? What happens when you turn on a damaged lightsaber? It explodes. So how is it this lightsaber is cracked, broken, and yet she's able to turn it on and it's functioning perfectly fine? Nothing wrong. It is a fully functioning cracked lightsaber. Maybe the crack was hit just in the right place to allow the crystal to be bled just from random sideline emotions, and it's just gonna work because it's attuned to her now. Oh, jeez. Like, what is happening here? So, yes, Osha has now crossed over into the dark side and has a fully bled lightsaber, all in a matter of seconds. Things that other Sith, things that more powerful Sith had to go through trial and tribulation to accomplish. She did just without even realizing she was doing it. She's just that good. Okay. In the midst of all this going on, Venestra and her crew of no-name Jedi finally land and start exiting the ship. I guess they were having trouble finding a parking space, considering they was hovering around for quite some time, apparently, long enough for everything to go down. And so now they're trying to, find Soul and find out what's going on here. And so Venestra uses the Force. She figures out where Soul is and she begins leading the Jedi off, but not before our Disney shoehorned Gopher friend shows back up and rejoins the team, because as you know, the Force isn't going to actually help them find anybody. They need the sniffer. And now here's where the show drags, because they literally drew this out in 10 minutes of runtime. Osha, May, and Chimera are running away, trying to get away from the Jedi as they're getting to the witch's fortress. And they decide they need to leave, and then out of nowhere decide that they're going to split up again. No actual reason given to this, but Osha makes a deal to train with Chimera and be his dark apprentice on the condition that they let May go. Then May's like, oh, they'll help me, they'll use me to find you guys if you guys let me go. And I'm still thinking, why are we letting you go? How are you a captive in the first place? Aren't all three of you guys now on the dark side? How come you guys just don't leave together? And they don't give an explanation for this. They just decide to split up again. And then for a moment in this show, they decide to make Chimera the most powerful character in all of Star Wars lore, apparently, because they decide that they're gonna let May go, be captured by the Jedi for no reason at all, and he's going to wipe her memories. Now, memory wiping is something that we have seen, of course, but he manages to wipe all of her memories taking her all the way back to when she was a little girl before anything happened. And he did it from at least a good 6 feet away, most likely more, with just a flick of his hand. In just like 2 seconds, her memories were wiped. And he's doing this to a force sensitive that has been trained to some extent. He's able to do it that fast, that easy. It brings up a few questions. One, just how powerful is Chimera supposed to be? 2, how come he didn't use this trick against any of his enemies? 3, how come you weren't using it to keep your identity under wraps? You exposed yourself as a Sith but didn't wipe anybody's memories, even though you could. And I love the fact that he says in here, I'm not sure if it'll work. And then and it worked. Seems like you got a pretty good handle on that ability. And then keep in mind, this entire speech is going on, this entire moment is going on and dragging on while the Jedi is supposed to be tracking them. But of course, the Jedi are going to move egregiously slow and not get there in time. And so now, May gets picked up by the Jedi after being abandoned by her sister and her sister's new Sith boyfriend. And now she's in the hands of Venestra, who has now realized that Chimera was her student. And so now she knows who the Dark Jedi is, and for the most part is keeping that bit of information under wraps because she hasn't mentioned it to anybody. She learns what she can from May, which is absolutely nothing because May was mind wiped with the simplest flick of a wrist. And so Venestra takes what little information she's gathered and decides to completely throw Soul under the bus by lying on his entire identity to the Senate in order to cover her own ass. Basically because she learned that the Dark Jedi was her Padawan, instead of telling the council that a Dark Jedi who is her Padawan killed a bunch of Jedi, she spun the story and said that Soul went crazy and killed all these Jedi to protect his secret. So obviously, if she does tell the truth, that would get her in trouble because she was the one who trained him. Not to mention the hater dude who showed up to speak to her before. He was talking about, it's only a matter of time before one of you guys snaps and it becomes a problem. So if she did admit that it was her Padawan that did this, then she'd be proving him right. So there's that reason. But that's a weird reason to shoehorn in because, again, you still haven't answered how he found out there was a Jedi killer running around in the first place. We still haven't gotten that information on how he learned that information. Like, who is the Jedi snitch? Or was it somebody from the bar in the first episode who told him about it? Because that was the only time we saw, like, there was a witness. So, where'd the information come from? That's the biggest thing. I don't like the fact that she threw Soul under the bus isn't really because Soul turned out to be a creeper anyway. But just the amount of lies that's going on with the Jedi right now is just hilarious. So she's saving her butt. We've abandoned her actual story in Legends, so that's neither here nor there now. She is a teacher of a fallen Jedi. That's her plot point now. And now, after everything has gone down, she's finished lying to the Senate about what happened. The final scene is her going into what I'm assuming is the Jedi Council room to speak to Yoda. We get to see the silhouette of Yoda from behind. We don't get to hear him talk because they pretty much told him they couldn't use Yoda in full. But Venestra lets him know that they need to talk. So apparently she's about to tell the whole truth of what's going on, or she's getting ready to lie to Yoda too. Either way, we don't know because it cuts away after that. And that's where the show ends. Osha has consciously decided to join the dark side. May, for no reason at all, did not join them and instead allowed her mind to be wiped. Venestra is the original teacher of Chimera and is covering up her tracks now that she knows that the blame is now going to fall on her. Soul was a creeper through and through. The other Jedi proved to be absolutely useless and was just cannon fodder. And we managed to turn a droid to the dark side for the first time. So yeah, that's the Acolyte. And I gotta say, I'm so happy it's over. I really hope it doesn't come back for a season 2. Really hope so. Oh man. And I just want to point this out real quick because I know people have really been calling me like Acolyte hater from this video series. I just want to put it out there that I didn't want this show to fail. Every announcement for like a new Star Wars show, I always want it to be a great show to help expand everything that is Star Wars. And it just upset me that this show failed so hard. Not to mention the biggest fail is in the title. It's called The Acolyte. And from that, we were basically promised a story about the dark side, a story about the Sith, a story about an acolyte trying to earn their way into Sithhood. And what we got was anything but, and it was just terrible. Absolutely terrible. There's nothing redeeming about this show. And the few good moments you could pick out here and there, like, oh, that was pretty cool, is completely overshadowed by all the bad. The weird choreography that doesn't do anything to help push any plot along, because yes, there is storytelling in choreography and in combat and stuff. They abandon that. They betray the lore so many times. The writing itself and pacing, even outside of Star Wars, take away the fact that this is a Star Wars production and just look at it like it was any other film. And there's so many plot holes. There's so many writing mistakes. There's so many events shoehorned in. There's so many moments that's just there just to be there. Like, it's just a sloppy show. And so I'm hoping that our next Star Wars production, hopefully not The Acolyte, but I'm hoping that the next one, like, I don't know, Mandalorian season 4, or I don't know if they're doing that or it's doing a movie at this point, but I'm really just hoping that the next Star Wars project is better than this. I really hope so, because as much as I made fun of this show, I'm not happy about Star Wars coming out with a failed TV show. I'm not. As a Star Wars fan, this does not make me happy to do this. But coming out and saying something, I feel like you need to put your opinion out there, because if no one says anything, they're going to continue to put out crap like this, and I just don't want to see that. But anyway, that's it for this. This is the end of this series. The next set of videos are going to be more fun, I promise. And so until next time, until the next Star Wars series drops, I will see you guys then. So till then, may the Force be with you. Now I'm out of here.